College, where he was a member of the Livestock judging team. He then went to Kansas State University, where he continued to judge and graduated with a degree in animal science. While working on a master's with the swine nutrition group, he assisted with the judging team at K-State. Spencer is currently the judging coach at Redlands Community College in El Reno, Oklahoma, where the team earned top honors at the 2023 American Royal. Please help me welcome Mr. Spencer Scotton today.
Well, good morning. Try to keep this thing on and not turn it off. Well, good morning. It's certainly a pleasure to get to come out again this year to the Spokane Livestock Show. I had an awesome time last year, and so I was really excited to get the opportunity to come back this year. Sounds like cattle numbers are up, so I'm excited for the next couple days. And we start off with a nice class out here in our Heifer show, and obviously there's a few different breeds represented, and we've got a little age spread in these cattle as well, so taking that into account, and really a nice set of heifers, and I think all three of them certainly have some positive things to offer, but certainly some discussion with them as well. The young lady semi-heifer up front that's going to go ahead and start off, whenever you add up the good pieces in her, I think she's got a lot of them. This one for me has the advantage of the trio in terms of boldness, stoutness, actual dimension. Whenever you get up on top of these cattle, that one is the best bodied one that we've got out here, and comes with the most stoutness and substance in terms of her bone work and all the way to the ground. There's a few things that you could change about her. You can maybe clean her up in her neckline just a little bit, and whenever she gets out and gets in motion, she's maybe not perfect in her rear ankle, but we can kind of pick apart all these in terms of their structure. And so whenever you add up the good things, I liked her body type the best. I like her added stoutness, and still I think she's the best in her top line, and I think she's the levelest out of her hip whenever you study her from the side view profile. So there's a lot of good in that heifer, and you've done a nice job with her. The Angus heifer that's coming out here second, there's a lot of neat things about her too. I actually like her just a little bit neater. Whenever you study her up through the front third of her body, she's just a little neater necked, and where she ties it onto the top of her shoulder is good. The turn and depth of her body is pretty solid as well. I'd like to change her just a little bit in the angle of her shoulder. She's just a little too straight in the angle of her shoulder. She's a little frailer in her bone work, and whenever she gets in motion, I'd like to see her square and just a bit more coordinated in the way that she uses her hind leg. And just like our class winner, she could be just a bit looser whenever you go down to the ground in her rear ankle. The Charolais heifer that's going to round us out, there's a lot of good things about this heifer too, because whenever you get up on top of these cattle, she's as muscular, she's as dimensional as anything that we've got out here. You do a great job getting her shown. She is just a little plainer up front. She's a bit cresty there at the top of her neck, and where she ties it into her shoulder. That heifer, whenever we get her in motion, is probably where I'd like to change her the most, because she wants to round out of her hip. She gets a bit frail in her bone work. She's a bit rigid in terms of her hock and her rear pastern whenever we go all the way to the surface. So just a few things from her from a balance and structure standpoint that we could change to go ahead and move her up a spot or two. But a good class of them, good class to start us off. If you would, let's put our hands together on a good way to get us started today.
Receiving purple ribbons in that class and returning are Stella Nelson and Mava Courtheis. Receiving a blue ribbon is Morgan Lewis. We do have an interesting and cool fact from that class and this has not been publicly announced yet. They did receive an email, but Stella Nelson and Mava Courtheis were also named our 2025-2026 Junior Show ambassadors. Entering the ring now is Class 2 of the FFA Heifer Show. Libby Lynn, Quincy Lynn, Alyssa Williams, Madison Laughley.
got another really nice class of them out here. Again, a lot of differences among our group, but I still think the one that's going to go ahead and start does so pretty comfortably for me. Whenever you talk about a combination of look and balance with the right kind of body type and the right kind of structure, I think this heifer fits that really nicely, especially whenever you get off to the side of them. That one is by some margin the most attractive one that we've got out here. She's got an awesome look up front, opens up into an awesome rib cage and center body. I like the design of her hip and hind leg. She looks just as good whenever we get her in motion as she does standing still. So I think that one in here starts off and does so pretty quickly for me. Then I think we've got a little more challenge amongst the remaining trio of heifers that we've got. And really, again, all of them have some good things about them. Probably the closest decision for me was between 2 and 3. I do like the extra extension. I like the extra smoothness. I like the extra refinement of the heifer in 2 in comparison to the one that sits right in behind her. That heifer is just a little more refined about her head and her neck shape. She lays a little smoother in her shoulder, even though she's not quite as stout in her bone work. You study her hip and the design of her hind leg, she's actually got a little more set and flexibility to her rear skeleton in comparison to the one that's coming out here in 3. The one that's coming out here in 3, and what makes that pair close, is I like this one's extra stoutness, and I like her extra boldness, and I like her extra muscle shape, and she actually comes with some more foot size and stoutness at the ground. For me, I'd like to see her lay just a little neater there at the base of her shoulder. We study her, and whenever we get her in motion, she's just a little too tight and rigid for me. Whenever you talk about her hock and her rear ankle, we need to see her just a little bit sounder. The gray heifer that we're going to round out with, another one that's neat neck. She's very extended. For me, you study her rib and her body type, and there just needs to be more of her. That one is the shallowest one. Whenever you study her through her midrib and back into her flank, I'd like to change the design of her hip and her hind leg as well. Good class of them. Those 4 young ladies did a great job showing. Congratulations to them.
Receiving purples and returning from Class 2 of FFA Heifer Show is Alyssa Williams and Madison Laughley. Receiving a blue ribbon is Libby Lynn, and a red ribbon is Quincy Lynn. Now we'll welcome Class 3 of the FFA Heifer Show into the ring. Luke Main, Olivia McGregor, and Luke Wade. As Class 3 is being evaluated here, I would be remiss if I did not mention that Pomeroy FFA is offering Junior Show sweatshirts and T-shirts for sale in the Interconnect building off of the Hog Barn.
Another good class that we've got. I think this class comes together really nicely. We've got a lot of quality all the way through, especially on the top end. The one that's going to go ahead and lead us off, I thought the two heifers that are coming out in 1 and 2 both have a lot of good to them. They're both very different in terms of type and kind. I think you can find an obvious advantage for each one of them. But the one that's going to go ahead and start off, this one for me, I like her balance, I like her refinement, and I like her smoothness better than the one that's coming right in behind her. That heifer, whenever you study her up front, she's more refined and more feminine about her head and her neck and the way that it ties into a smoother shoulder right there. I like the depth, I like the softness and sweep back to her rear rib and flank. The length and levelness of her hip is an upgrade in comparison to the one that's coming right in behind her, and so that really caps off her look of balance that she's got going from the side. And a heifer that's got just a little more extension and a little more lateness of maturity to her as well whenever you compare her to the one that's coming right in behind her. If you're going to criticize that one, whenever she gets in motion, I still think she's plenty sound, but she does dip out in her loin just a little bit, and I'd like to see her with just a bit more strength in her top line whenever we get her in motion. But I think whenever you add up the good pieces, she's got a lot of them and still needs to win this class. Now, the heifer that's coming out in second, her class advantage is muscle and stoutness and power. Whenever you get in behind this lineup, there's not another one that's got that same kind of width, that's got that same kind of dimension. That heifer has an awesome turn of her rib, very, very stout from behind. Now, with that extra power and with that extra width, she's not as refined up front. She wants to get a bit open in her shoulder, and she doesn't sit down quite as square up front. You study that heifer in motion, and she does get just a bit short and round out of her hip and wants to duck her pins, and she's not as comfortable in her hind leg and in her rear ankle set as that one that we lead off with. The heifer that's going to go ahead and round us out, this heifer's got a lot of really good pieces too. Whenever you talk about one that's refined, she is extra smooth in the way that she blends everything together. There just needs to be a little more of her. Whenever you compare her to the ones that go out ahead of her, she's not as bold. She's not as good in terms of her center body. We need to drop her down in her rear rib and flank to balance her out just a bit and stouten her up whenever you get in behind these cattle. But I thought a good class of them there. Again, 3 good showmen on 3 good heifers. Congratulations to them on a nice job.
Receiving purple ribbons and returning to the finals from Class 3, we have Luke Wade, Luke Main, receiving a blue ribbon, Olivia McGregor. Next into the ring, as soon as we figure out how we're going to bring them in, will be the FFA Heifer Finals. There will be 6 animals, the top 2 placings from each of those last 3 classes. And this is a good time to announce that both the 4-H and FFA Heifer Buckles are sponsored by 4W Ranch and Show Feeds. Also should announce that our cattle barn ring sponsor is Ag West Farm Credit. Ag West Farm Credit is an agricultural lending cooperative with more than a century of experience serving farmers, ranchers, timber harvesters, and aquatic producers throughout the West. They are committed to providing consistent, reliable credit, insurance, and financial services to the people who feed and clothe the world, from Alaska to Arizona. As your trusted source, they'll share knowledge, insights, and financial acumen to help you build strong, thriving businesses that last generations. Okay, entering the ring, we have our Class 1 winner, Stella Nelson, followed by Class 2 winner, Alyssa Williams, and then Class 3 winner, Luke Wade. And then we will have our second places from Class 1, Mava Courtheis, from Class 2, Madison Laughley, and from Class 3, Luke Main.
as we work towards the end of our FFA Heifer Show. We had 3 really good classes, and I'm really happy with our class winners and second places that we bring back out here. If you guys would around ringside, let's congratulate these 6 young people that made it back out here for our champion drive. Like we talked about in class, all 3 of our class winners, I think, certainly bring a lot of good to the table. The one that won our class 1 really set the tone for the right kind of rib, the right kind of body type, and the right kind of stoutness that we can certainly build off of. I like that heifer a lot, and whenever you studied her in relation to the ones in that class, just her extra dimension and her extra stoutness really, really hit me hard, and I like that about her. Now, we get her out here in deeper water, and like we talked about in class, we can maybe clean her up just a little bit in her neck, and whenever we get her in motion, she gets just a bit rigid in terms of her rear ankle. And we talked about the structure and kind of the give and take on all 3 of those heifers there in that particular class. But I still think a lot of quality comes out of class 1. The one that comes out of class 2, I talked about her in just a really good combination of a awesome look from the side. And there's your look at her right there whenever you get off to the profile. She's got a very striking look up front. She's great in her neck. She's awesome where she ties it onto the top of her shoulder for the kind of look that she's got. To blend that with the kind of rib and body and dimension that she's got behind it, I think is pretty impressive. And then whenever you get that heifer in motion, I think she pulls herself together and looks just as good whenever we get her in motion as she does standing still. So I think that heifer, whenever we talk about a combination of blending the kind of look, the kind of refinement, the kind of balance that I like from the side with still the right kind of body type and structure whenever we get them in motion, I think that heifer does a really nice job of combining both of those things with some extra power, with some extra stoutness whenever you get in behind the cattle. The one that wins the 3rd class standing still, that one's good looking. And you talk about one that is very refined. She's awesome in terms of the smoothness of her shoulder, how she opens up with the right kind of depth and sweep and softness to her rear rib and flank. And I thought that one, just from the side and her balance and her smoothness, really allowed her to go ahead and win that class that she was in relatively handily, really. We talked about her, and if we're going to tweak that one and make her just perfect whenever we get her in motion, she wants to dish out in her loin just a little bit, and I wish her top line maintained just a little more strength whenever we got her in motion. But I love her look standing still. I love her refinement and smoothness, and that balance that she gives you from the side, I think is really, really impressive. We could just change her up just a little bit in the way she handles her top line, maybe her hind leg just ever so slightly as well. But I think a really nice set of class winners that we bring back out here. All 3 of them should be really excited about what they've got. I guarantee you all 3 of them, you can take those home and make some really nice things in the next generation with those 3 cattle that we bring back out here on the front line of our class winners. And we've got a set of seconds over here that were very competitive to them as well, so congratulations to them as well. I'll go ahead and set this down. We'll select your champion in reserve here in our FFA Heifer Show. If you would, one more time, let's congratulate our young people on a very, very competitive set of cattle.
Grand Champion FFA breeding heifer is Alyssa Williams. Reserve Champion Luke Wade. And I have not done my job well on saying where the kids are from so far. Alyssa Williams and Luke Wade are both from Lind-Ritzville FFA. Third place goes to Luke Main from Stanwood FFA. Fourth place goes to Stella Nelson, also from Stanwood FFA. Fifth place overall heifer, Mava Courtheist from Lindritzville FFA. And sixth place then is Madison Laughley from Deer Park FFA. Let's give them all a round of applause. Again, our 4-H and FFA heifer buckle sponsors are 4W Ranch and Show Feed. All right, we will excuse these showmen and cattle from the ring. We're going to hold off on pictures until the end for the overall Supreme Heifer Drive. We will welcome Alyssa Williams and Luke Wade back for the Supreme Heifer Drive after the 4-H Heifer Show. We will now begin the 4-H Heifer Show. Class 1 is a lone entry, Abby Laughley from Buckles and Bling. And I will take this opportunity to reintroduce our judge. Originally from Nevada, Missouri, Spencer Scotton grew up on his family's club calf operation. After high school, he attended Butler Community College, where he was a member of the livestock judging team. He then went to Kansas State, where he continued judging and graduated with a degree in animal science. While working on a master's with the swine nutrition group, he assisted with the judging team at K-State. Spencer is currently the livestock judging coach at Redlands Community College in El Reno, Oklahoma, where his team earned top honors at the 2023 American Royal. Please join me in giving Mr. Spencer Scotton another round of applause as we welcome him.
We've just got a single entry to start off our 4-H Heifer Show, so at least to this point, I've at least got one right on our classes. So this young lady's doing a nice job out here with a really nice heifer, and even if we had more of them, I guarantee you this one would still be competitive because the basics are there. You talk about one that's sound structured, looks like she's got a good body type, she's got a neat look to her up front, she's dead level down her top line. So this young lady's done a great job with her, and we'll get to see her back here in just a little bit. Congratulations.
Receiving a purple ribbon and returning for our finals, Abby Laughley. We'll now welcome in, give a round of applause there. We'll now welcome in Class 2 of our 4-H Heifer Show, Maverick Reiber, Alexis Lindgren, and Tylee Gertis. Again, entering the ring is Class 2 of our 4-H Heifer Show, Maverick Reiber, Alexis Lindgren, and Tylee Gertis.
Well, another class of them that's got a lot of really good things to talk about and a lot of really good things to see in each one of these cattle. And I think up here towards the top into this class. Some good give and take and some good discussion amongst our pair of them that we've got, but still the Baldy heifer that's going to go ahead and lead us off. That one is extra striking, very high quality from the side. I love her balance and I love her lines whenever you get off to the profile of her. That one is the neatest one up front. She's dead level in her top line. I still think she's got the right kind of rib and body to her, but I think her lines and her balance and her refinement and femininity allow her to go ahead and lead us off. Now, we could change her just a little bit whenever we get her in motion. I'd sure like to see her with just a bit more flexibility to her rear pastern, because she does get just a little rigid whenever we set her in motion, but I think past that, that one's easily got the most good and very high quality whenever you get off to the side of these cattle. I think the heifer that's coming out here in second, I mentioned to that young lady, I like that one's color. You won't miss her whenever you go to check them, and I do like that one whenever we do get her in motion. I do think she's better in the set of her hock. I do think she's better in the set of her rear ankle, even in relation to her class winner. But she does run downhill. She gets a little plainer in her look, a little plainer in her design, and whenever you study her from the profile, she does not have the same kind of look up front, the same kind of top line balance, and just striking image from the profile as we get off to the side of them, and so that's where she's going to end up in second. The heifer that's coming out here in third, again, I think fundamentally this heifer's got a lot of good things, and whenever you talk about just being a very practical, sound-structured, good-bodied kind of replacement, I think she fits all of those. We get her in here, and compared to some heifers that maybe have just a little more look and quality, she does become just a little plainer out front. I'd like to change her and stouten her up in her structure just a little bit. I'd like to give her a better attitude for you, my man, because you've done a good job with her, and I'm glad you're showing her, not me. You've done a good job hanging with her. But again, nice trio of heifers that we've got out here. Congratulations to all those exhibitors.
Receiving purple ribbons and returning, Tylee Gertis from Frog Hollow 4-H and Alexis Lindgren from Garfield County Livestock 4-H. Receiving a blue ribbon, Maverick Reiber from La Crosse All-Purpose 4-H. We will now welcome into the ring Class 3 of the 4-H Heifer Show. Kyle Taylor, Northwest Rangers 4-H. Tylee Gertis, Frog Hollow 4-H. Xander Orcutt from Country Kids 4-H. Eliza Bailey, Reardon Livestock 4-H. And Ava McKay from Frog Hollow 4-H.
really nice class that we've got out here. Probably a few more numbers than we've had in a couple of these other classes. And I think this class comes with some challenge because as you look at these cattle, there's not one of them that look alike. They're all very different, but I think each one of them, all the way 1 through 5, certainly have some pieces that you like about them. Still pretty solid on our class winner, though. Whenever you talk about one that's just got immense quality whenever you step off to the profile, I love this heifer's look. I love her lines, and that starts up front. She is so neat looking and so striking whenever you study her through the front third of her body. She is awesome in her rib cage and her body type, and what I like about her, whenever we get her on the standstill at the profile, everything just fits together so good and so smooth. She's dead level down her top line. There's your look at her right there. Awesome neck, big rib, awesome in her top line balance, and still that one, whenever you get up on top of these cattle, the turn of her body and still having the right kind of dimension, she fits that too. So I was pretty quick to go ahead and do that and allow her to get up towards the top of this class pretty quickly. If you're going to say, hey, where could we change her just a little bit, you could maybe stouten her up in her bone work just ever so slightly, and she wants to kind of kick her hind leg out whenever you study her in motion. But I still think that one, a lot of good pieces, and needs to start off this class and do so pretty quickly. Now, I did think that there was some challenge after her because the heifers that come in 2 and 3, depending on what views you get and depending on what areas that you study them in, I think there's some give and take between them. Ultimately, I thought the heifer that's coming out in second resembled our class winner just a bit more in terms of balance and body type. That heifer's neater fronted. She's bigger ribbed and she's deeper back through her rear rib and flank with just a bit more shape and a bit more dimension whenever you study her through the center part of her body. I thought what made that close is whenever we get the heifer in 2 in motion, we need to change her in the design of her hock and her rear pastern because she's not perfect there. Actually, the heifers that sit on either side of her are just a bit sounder in regard to their rear skeleton, and so I thought that's what made it close. But I did think that one's balance and her body type mirrored our class winner just a bit more than the heifer that's coming right in behind her. Now, like we talked about, the heifer that's coming in 3, she's got the advantage over the one that's going right out ahead of her in terms of her hind leg set. She's got a square, more flexible hind leg whenever we get her in motion. I like the design of her hock and her rear pastern better than the one that goes out right ahead of her, but she doesn't balance up quite as good from the side. She's a little plain-fronted. She's just a little shallow-bodied and a little rounder out of her hip, and so those few things just throw her off from a balance and proportion standpoint whenever you get off to the side of them. The heifer that's coming out next, there's some pieces about this heifer I really, really like, and there's some things that you can call class advantages in her. She's as bold and she's as stout as any of them whenever you get up on top of the cattle or whenever you get in behind the lineup. My problem with this one is whenever you get off to the side of her, she is the plainest one up front. She's got the most crest to her neck. She gets a little off in her top line where her loin ties into her hip and gets a little round out of her hip, and so we need to see that one just a little smoother, a little better balanced, a little neater in her look from the side to go ahead and work her up a spot or two. Still thought she was a little more acceptable in regard from a structure standpoint than the one that's going to go ahead and round us out. Now, the gold heifer that's going to round us out, I like this heifer standing still because she's got a neater look to her, probably blends together just a little bit smoother. It's whenever we get her in motion, her structure I probably have the most question marks in. She gets just a little too straight up front. She is the one that's the tightest and the most restricted from behind, so off both ends of her skeleton, we need to change her to move her up a spot or two, but standing still, I think you can argue her up a spot or two. It's just whenever we get her in motion that I'd like to change her. Again, congratulations. That was a good class of them all the way top to bottom. Good job to those exhibitors.
Receiving purple ribbons and returning from Class 3 of the 4-H Heifer Show, Kyle Taylor from Northwest Rangers, Tylee Gertis from Frog Hollow, and Xander Orcutt from Country Kids 4-H. Receiving blue ribbons, Eliza Bailey and Ava McKay. Now entering the ring is Class 4 of the 4-H Heifer Show. We have Elizabeth Lindgren, Mason Lewis, Cammie Williams, Everett Bailey, and Adeline McKay.
Another good class that we've got out here, and even though there's different, I still think there's two heifers that need to get up towards the top of this class pretty quick, and with that, I think they both got their advantages, but still the one that leads off is just pretty overwhelming in here. I love her moderation, her rib and her body and her extra stoutness that she's got. It's very, very impressive whenever you get up on top of these cattle and whenever you get in behind them. And for the kind of stoutness and power that she does have, she still balances out from a proportion standpoint very, very well from the side and actually blends her top line together just a little neater than the one that's coming right in behind her, with just a bit more boldness and stoutness to her as well. You could maybe see that one just a little stouter in her bone work in relation to her body mass up high. She's got so much mass and so much dimension up high, she maybe comes off just a little bit frailer down at the ground, and you could maybe see her just a little bit bigger footed, and we could maybe dial her back and see her just a little bit leaner from a condition standpoint, but still that heifer's got a lot of good to her, and just like I said, pretty overwhelming here in this class. Now the heifer that's coming out here in second, her advantages lie up front because that one is a little longer neck. I think that one's just a little smoother in terms of her shoulder. I love that one's look, and I love her design from the side, especially up front. Now you get in behind her shoulder and she maybe doesn't hook up quite perfect in her top line, and she wants to roll up and get just a little tighter in her spine, and I don't know if it's an attitude thing because she's getting just a little antsy and a little nervous out here, and she'll want to work up in her top, and she becomes just a bit more rigid in the design of her hock and her rear ankle, and just gives up too much in terms of rib and body and dimension to our class winner to go ahead and get around her. But still, I thought that pair of heifers were both very, very nice. The heifer that's coming out here in third fundamentally is awesome. You talk about one that's moderate. She's great bodied. She's super, super sound structured. I love her lower joint work. She's got big feet. She's stout in her bone work. And whenever she gets in motion, that one just is as sound as you can make them, I guarantee it. Now, she gets hooked up pretty tight against a couple that whenever you get off to this view right here, she doesn't have the same kind of look. She doesn't have the same kind of presence or quality as the pair that go out ahead of her. But fundamentally, I thought that heifer was very nice. The young man's heifer that's coming out here next, rib and body type are good, maybe just a shot more look up front than the one that goes out ahead of her. For me, I'd like to change that one and stouten her up in her bone work, change her in the design of her hip and her hind leg. It's not quite as athletic and square as that one that goes out right ahead of her. And then the young man's heifer that we're going to round out with, she's very, very sound. I like her extension. We just need to stouten her up, give her a shot more body and a little more look whenever you get off to the side of them. But again, a good class of them there. Congratulations to those exhibitors on a nice job.
All right, from Class 4 of the 4-H Heifer Show, returning and receiving purple ribbons. Purple 1, Cammie Williams from Bonner County 4-H. Purple 2, Adeline McKay from Frog Hollow. Receiving blue ribbons, Elizabeth Lindgren from Garfield County Livestock 4-H. Mason Lewis from Odessa Junior Livestock 4-H. And Everett Bailey from Reardon Livestock 4-H Club. We are waiting on one animal from Class 5, so I'll take the opportunity to announce our ring sponsor. The beef cattle ring sponsor is Ag West Farm Credit. Ag West Farm Credit is an agricultural lending cooperative with more than a century of experience serving farmers, ranchers, timber harvesters, and aquatic producers throughout the West. They are committed to providing consistent, reliable credit, insurance, and financial services to the people who are committed, the people who feed and clothe the world from Alaska to Arizona. As your trusted source, they'll share knowledge, insights, and financial acumen to help you build strong, thriving businesses that last generations. All right, Class 5 of the 4-H Heifer Show. Entering the ring, we have Mac Hilly from Valley Community 4-H. Tommy Gottney from Valley Community 4-H. Brooke Gassetti from Move It or Lose It. Cade Meacham from Footloose 4-H. And Kevin Brash from Liberty Knights 4-H. I'll also take the opportunity to announce again that the Pomeroy FFA alumni has some junior show swag for sale, sweatshirts and t-shirts in the Interconnect building off of the Hog Show Ring.
This is another really nice class of them, and as they were coming in, I was kind of laughing. I don't know if I've ever seen a class where every single one of them's been a baldy. That's kind of cool. So nice job to you guys. Got a good set of cattle, and really, not only are they pretty similar in terms of their color, we've got a good set of cattle out here that are pretty similar just in terms of type and kind, top to bottom out here. Probably for me, the closest decision comes between 1 and 2, and that's what probably what I was debating the most as those two cattle were out here. I think there's some good give and take, and there's some good differences between them. I ultimately landed on one that I thought was just a little neater in her look up front. Her head shape and is just a little more refined. I like her neck shape just a little bit better as well. She's a bit more striking as you study her from the side, and then she's longer and leveler out of her hip, which also kind of helps her balance whenever you study her off both ends. She's better looking up front and still maintains more length and levelness out of her hip from the side. So I think just in general, that heifer probably shoots you with just a little neater look of balance in combination with being just a shot softer and deeper back through her rear rib and flank. Now, what makes it close is I'd like to change her hind leg and make her just a bit more flexible in her hock and see her set down with just a little more comfort in her rear ankle, and that's certainly where I like the heifer that's coming out here in 2. And this young lady's done a great job getting this one shown and presented. I love her at the ground. She's big-footed. She's stout in her bone work, very nicely presented and very fresh in her presentation, and I like that. Get right off to the side of her. I just like to see her a little neater up front. She's probably the plainest one of the entire class whenever you study her in terms of her head shape, her neckline, and where she ties into her chest. And then whenever we get her in motion, that heifer gets too round out of her hip and has too much roll from her hook to her pin and wants to kind of duck up underneath herself just a little bit whenever you study her, and she doesn't have as much depth and softness back through her rear rib and flank. So there's some really, really good things about that heifer that are class advantages in here, and yet there's a few things in her balance and her structure and her body type that just aren't quite as good as the one that we lead off with. The heifer that's coming out here in 3rd, she's just a little neater up front. I do like that heifer's boldness of body type and her natural dimension. She's probably the one that's the most inconsistent in her top line. Whenever we get her in motion of the initial trio, she is the frailest in her bone work that we need to stouten up at the ground just a little bit as well. Heifer that's coming out next to the young lady's got, she's good in her lines from the side. I like this heifer set up from the profile. She's neat in her neck. She's good in her top line balance. Of the probably the top 4 of them that we've got, she was the shallowest bodied one that just needs just a shade more dimension whenever you get up on top of them, and needs just a shot more body whenever you get off to the side. But still, I thought some lines and some quality and some structure in her were very, very nice. The young man's heifer that we're going to round out with, that heifer's got some more punch to her. She's got more dimension whenever you get up on top of the cattle. I like that. Whenever you get these cattle in motion is probably where I'd like to change her the most. She is the most restricted out of her rear skeleton, and again, from the side view profile, we need to balance her up just a little bit different from her chest back into her flank. Hip and hind leg become just a bit more rigid is where we need to change her. So congratulations. Again, great class of them there. All those exhibitors did a good job. Congratulations to them. If you would, put your hands together for a nice class.
Receiving purple ribbons and returning to the finals from Class 5 of the 4-H Breeding Heifer Show, we have Cade Meacham from Footloose 4-H and Brooke Gassetti from Move It or Lose It. Receiving blue ribbons, Mac Hilly from Valley Community 4-H, Tommy Gottney from Valley Community 4-H, and Kevin Brash from Liberty Knights 4-H. Next, we will enter or welcome into the ring Class 6 of the 4-H Heifer Show. We have Colin Hames from Garfield County Livestock, Ann Hedrick from Better Beef, Kane Geddes from Footloose 4-H Club, and Tommy Joe Jensen from Colfax Grow 'em and Show 'em.
think a good class of them that we've got out here. I think the heifers that are coming out in 1 and 2 for me are the two that I like their balance, I like their smoothness, and I like their refinement just a little bit more. And then yet I think our class winner just takes that a step further with more body, more dimension, just more of everything whenever you compare her to the one that's coming right in behind her, and probably a heifer that's just a little bit further along whenever you talk about maturity and body type as well. And I think that kind of aids to her being just a little bit stouter whenever you study her. And like I talked about, I like both these two heifers in regard to their balance and their look from the side, and yet our class winner, I love her extra rib and her extra body and dimension to go ahead and lead us off. The heifer that's coming out here in second, she's good looking from the profile, great in her lines, very smooth. I thought her structure was just a bit better than the heifer that's coming right in behind her. Whenever we compare her to our class winner, there's just not as much there whenever you study her coming into her heart and her forerib all the way back to her midrib and her rear rib and flank. Just doesn't have the same kind of boldness and drop and sweep to it like we see in our class winner. And whenever you get in behind the cattle, she's running a distant second to her in regard to power too. So I do think that one's got a lot of good pieces to her. Just runs into one that I like her look and I like her balance, and I think she's just got a little more to her in our class winner. The one that's coming out here in 3, this heifer's got a lot of muscle, and I think this one's just a little bit greener in terms of her rib and body, and maybe just needs a little more time to soften up through the center part of her rib. But I still think that one's got some good pieces. She's neat-necked. She's got a great shape, and her muscle expression is very, very impressive. She comes off just a little bit raw, and everything doesn't blend together quite as good from the side. And we need to see her just a shade leveler out of her hip, just a shot softer right there through the mid-portion of her body to balance her out just right. Pieces are there, need to blend together just a little bit better. The brockle-faced heifer that's going to round us out, that heifer's sound, and she's very extended. We just need to see a little more to that one in terms of her body shape and power. She gets just a shot plainer up front as well, but the main thing is from there back, she doesn't have the same kind of boldness of body and the same kind of dimension as those cattle that are up the line. But another good class. Congratulations to those exhibitors.
Receiving purple ribbons and returning to our finals from Class 6 of the 4-H Heifer Show, Kane Geddes from Footloose 4-H, Colin Hames from Garfield County Livestock. Receiving blue ribbons, Tommy Joe Jensen from Colfax Grow 'em and Show 'em, and Hedrick from Better Beef. We will now welcome into the ring our 7th and final 4-H breeding heifer class. This class has 2 exhibitors, Kason Limetz from Garfield County Livestock and Randy Hibbard from Boundary Beef. Excuse me, this class will have 1 exhibitor, Kason Limetz.
just a single entry here in our last class, so we'll get to see this one kind of turn and come right back in and join us for our grand drive. And I think this one's going to be right in the mix because there's a lot of quality in this heifer. I really think she's got a neat look up front. Her extension and length of neck is very impressive, and still to open up into the kind of rib cage that she's got, and for as smooth as she blends together in terms of her shoulder and the way that it comes into her rib cage, you step in behind her, she's big pin and she's stout. And then whenever you get her in motion, she's very loose in her lower joint work as well. She can maybe get just a little bit lax in her top line, and whenever you study her right in behind her shoulder, she gets just a little easy right there. And whenever we get her in motion, you can maybe strengthen that up just a little bit in terms of consistency of top line. But there's a lot of good in her. We'll get to see her right back, and definitely deserving to be a class winner here. And I think we're going to have a really, really nice lineup whenever we get them back out here. So congratulations on a good single entry. We'll see you right back in here.
Purple one goes to Kaysen Lemitz. Kaysen, go out the other gate, please. All right, we will welcome back into the ring our final drive of 4-H breeding heifers. They're going to come in order of class winners first, followed by seconds, and we do have 1/3. So coming into the ring, we have from Class 1, Abby Laughley. From Class 2, I skipped one. From Class 2, we have Tylee Gertis. From Class 3, Kyle Taylor. From Class 4, Cammie Williams. From Class 5, we have Cade Meacham. From Class 6, Kane Geddes. And from Class 7, we have Kaysen Lemitz. Our second place in classes coming in will be from Class 2, Alexis Lindgren. From Class 3, Tylee Gertis. From Class 4, we have Adeline McKay. Class 5, Brooke Gassetti. Class 6, Colin Hames. And there was no Class 7. Our lone third place returner, Xander Orcutt from Class 3. If you're just walking up, in the ring is our final drive of 4-H breeding heifers. The sponsor for the awards for 4-H and FFA heifer buckles is 4W Ranch and Show Feeds.
We get our 7 class winners back out here. I thought a very competitive 4-H heifer show. All 7 of our class winners come back out, very deserving to be out here on the front line in contention for our champion lineup out here. And I'm glad we're picking a top 5 because I think we can go 5 deep. Hey, we could even go more with more numbers in here and have really, really good ones all the way through. I thought that was just how deep and competitive our show was. So before we get into talking the cattle and before we get to picking them, let's put our hands together for these young people that have done an awesome job for us out here in a great 4-H heifer show. Well, we started off with the young lady single entry there in Class 1, and again, that one's lines, her structure, and her quality really fit in our lineup out here. She's the youngest one out here and probably comes off as just a little more immature, and she's not as stout, and she's not as bold, and she doesn't have as much dimension as the rest of the cattle down our lineup, but I still think that one's got a lot of upside, and her structure and her look and design are something that you can really build off of, and I think she's got a lot of quality. The one that comes out of that second class, extremely striking. I love that one at the standstill. Her look and presence up front is really, really nice. And then you study her and her lines and her design and her balance from the profile. Very, very attractive. We get her in motion, and like we talked about it in class, she needs to be changed in the design of her hind legs. She gets a bit too rigid, especially in her rear ankle, and she wants to just get just a little too tight right there every time we get her in motion. If we change that, I think she's a real player out here because whenever you study him standing still and you look down the lineup, she is very striking, and that splash of color just makes her pop even more. That's a very high quality one there that comes out of Class 2. Same with the one that comes out of Class 3. Whenever you look down the lineup, you're not going to find one that's any neater in her lines or any better in her balance than the one that wins Class 3. That heifer is so neat up front. She's awesome in her top line balance. The design of her hip and hind leg is very attractive, and still to combine it with the right kind of body and the right kind of shape with that, I think is very impressive. But for me, whenever you walk up and down the lineup, that's the one that I really, really tie into from a look and design and balance standpoint. And still, we talked about her maybe needing to stouten her up in her bone work just a little bit, but I think other than that, that heifer's got a lot of good to her. And again, just love her balance and love her lines and love how smooth that she blends everything together. Little different rig coming out of the next class because this one is one of the stoutest ones that we have out here in our lineup. Whenever you get in behind these cattle, her boldness of body, her extra width and dimension, it's pretty impressive. And we talked about there in that class how she was just pretty overwhelming to the rest of them out there in terms of her rib and width and dimension and body type. And still, with that kind of power, I think proportionally everything fits together good enough. Now, with her kind of body mass up top, she does get just a little frailer in her bone work down low and her foot size than maybe I would deem ideal. We talked about maybe dialing that one back just a little bit in terms of a condition standpoint because she wants to open up in her shoulder, open up in her chest just a little bit, and she's not quite as smooth and as refined as really the cattle that sit on either side of her. But Definitely one that I like in this lineup from a power, width, and dimension standpoint. She's pretty impressive there. Just need to change her inner structure just a little bit, stouten her up in her bone work, and maybe she gets just a little compact up front and just doesn't have that extra length and strikiness up through the front third of her body, but still very, very high quality one there. The Baldy heifer that comes out of the class of Baldies there in that class, I thought another one that was very, very, very well represented out here in our lineup. Neat look up front. I like that one's extension. I like her smoothness of shoulder. I like her body type. We can maybe change her just a little bit whenever we study her in terms of her presentation. She's getting just a little bit staler in terms of her hair. She's getting a little staler in regard to her look. And whenever we study her in the design of her hind leg, even though I thought it was an upgrade in regard, her hip length was an upgrade in regard to the one that came second in that class, she was maybe not quite as attractive in the set and travel of her hind leg in comparison to some of our other class winners that we've got out here. But again, we got to be nitpicky whenever we've got them this good, and those are a couple things that I'd change in that one in relation to our class winners that come out here with her. The one that comes out of that next class, there was a nice pair of heifers in there that I thought were both smooth. They were both refined. I thought they both had the right kind of look and design from the side. I love this one's extra rib and dimension and extra stoutness whenever you get up on top of the cattle. That one is truly bold and opened up coming into her forerib, the right kind of depth and sweep back through her rear rib and flank. I think everything balances up good enough in that one as well. You can maybe tuck her down just a little neater at her tail head where she ties her neck right into the top of her shoulder. You could maybe say she could be just a little bit more refined right there. But I think other than that, I think big picture, that heifer is a good looking one that has the right kind of body type and the right kind of stoutness. We just ended up our line up with our single entry red heifer that I said would fall right into the mix out here, and she does, because she's got a lot of quality. I love her structure at the ground. She's big-footed whenever she gets out and gets in motion. I think she's as flexible in regard to her lower joints as any of them. I like that about her, and still she's extended up front, and I still think she's got some dimension whenever you get in behind her. Now, the longer that she stays out here, she's wanting to fall apart and come in too many pieces from the profile, and like we talked about there in class, whenever you study her, where she comes right out of the back of her shoulder, the center of her top line, she's getting just a little easy right there. You get up on top of them, and she probably doesn't have the same kind of extra spread and extra dimension and shape, like especially comparison to the heifer that goes right out of that class in front of her. But I still think that one's got a lot of good pieces. Her structure's good, her extension's good, and still comes with some dimension from behind. And we need to change her in her balance from the side, because whenever you study her top line, study her lower body, she wants to fall apart just a little bit. So I think that was an awesome lineup of them that come back out here. Definitely 5 of them that we're going to pick are all 5 very competitive. Same with the ones that were second in those respective classes. I thought a good lineup of them over here as well. One more time, let's congratulate our class winners and seconds and our 1/3 that comes back out here. And I'll get you a top 5 here in the 4-H show. Again, congratulations on a great job.
Grand champion 4-H breeding heifer Kyle Taylor from Northwest Rangers. Reserve champion Kane Geddes from Footloose 4-H Club. Third overall 4-H breeding heifer, Cammie Williams from Bonner County 4-H. Fourth overall 4-H breeding heifer, Kason Lamitz from Garfield County Livestock. Fifth overall 4-H breeding heifer, Cade Meacham from Footloose 4-H Club. All right, we will excuse all of the heifers in the ring out, and then next in will be our Supreme Heifer Show. So we will ask the Grand and Reserve 4-H heifers to re-enter the ring in just a moment. Okay, as we welcome back Grand and Reserve champion heifers from the FFA and 4-H division. First off, buckle and award sponsors for the heifer division is 4W Ranch and Show Feeds. Entering the ring, grand champion FFA heifer, Alyssa Williams from Lynn Ritzville FFA. Grand champion 4-H heifer, Kyle Taylor from Northwest Rangers. Reserve champion FFA heifer from Lynn Ritzville FFA, Luke Wade, and reserve champion 4-H heifer, Kane Geddes from Footloose 4-H.
Well, our cattle show was really, really good last year, so I was very excited to get the opportunity to come back. And thus far in our heifer shows, we get our champion and reserves out of our FFA and our 4-H show back out here in contention for Supreme Overall. I'll tell you what, these four are flat good. I'm telling you, guys brought a lot of good cattle out here today. Before we get to talking them and before we get to picking a champion and reserve, if you would, around ringside, let's please congratulate these four young people on the awesome job that they've done today. I promise you it wouldn't have been an easy task to make it back out here in our Final Four, because just the depth of quality I thought was very impressive. The top end, very, very good, as you can see, but what was so impressive to me is the depth of quality of each one of those classes. In our top 5 that we picked in the FFA and the 4-H show that we just got done with, man, they were good, and it was fun to get to sort through them. And I'm really happy with the 4 of them that we bring back out here. And honestly, one of the closer decisions of the day that I've had thus far is picking our Supreme out here, because we've got 2 representatives out here that I like both of them a ton, and we'll talk back and forth the advantages between each one of them, and then we'll pick you a champion and reserve. The one that comes out of our FFA division, there's a lot of pieces about this heifer I really, really like. First of all, whenever she comes in, she's got a great look to her, super, super neat up front, very refined, very feminine. There's your look at her right there. Her neck is a mile long, and then to open up into the kind of rib and center body that she does, that's impressive. And what I like about her is whenever you get these cattle in motion, and her advantage against the one that comes out of our 4-H division, I like the design of her hip and her hind leg just a little bit better. At the stand, the length, the levelness of her hip, the set of her hind leg, her extra stoutness of bone work is an advantage in comparison to the one that comes out of the 4-H division. And I really think that aids to her look and design from the side. And then whenever we get her in motion, she's as good as we've had out here in terms of the design of her hip and hind leg and how she gets out and goes. Now, she's so flexible at times, she'll get just a little easy in her top line whenever you get out here. And the longer that she stays out here, she'll get just a little weak right in behind her shoulder. And I'd like to strengthen her there just a little bit. But I'm not going to be too hard on that, because whenever cattle are flexible, whenever they're loose in their joint work, sometimes they've got a little extra flex or just a little extra easiness to their spine, and sometimes they're not going to hold together just perfect. But what I liked about her, and we talked about this in her class whenever we picked our champion FFA heifer, this one looks just as good, if not better, moving as she does standing still, and I really appreciate that about her. The one that comes out of her 4-H division, I think what makes this pair so good, and there's so much discussion between them, this heifer set up from the side is as good in her lines and is as good in her balance, refinement, and femininity as we've had out here. You talk about one that's got a gorgeous head and neck set on her. She ties her neck right onto the top of her shoulder, where you change the one that comes out of our FFA division. She hooks up awesome behind her shoulder. She's dead level down her top line. That one's got the lines, and that one's got the silhouette that I can get into really, really quickly. Now, we talked about her there in class and talked about her in the division whenever we picked our champion in that particular division. She's not the stoutest bone one, and if we're going to change her, I'd like to maybe amp her up in terms of her foot size and stouten her up in her bone work just a little bit whenever we get these cattle in motion. I sure think she's sound, and she's still in that window of acceptability for being one that's great in her structure, but whenever we compare her to the one that wins our FFA division, she does want to pull her hock just a little bit, and she wants to shuffle outside of herself just ever so slightly whenever you study those 2 cattle in motion. So in motion, I like that one's hip and hind leg, and her stoutness of bone work just a little bit better, and probably comes with just a little more depth through her rib and center body. On the other hand, and whenever we talk about the one that comes out of our 4-H division, I love that one's look standing still, and then she's giving you that look right there standing still that I absolutely love from the profile. It's just whenever we get her in motion, we can maybe pick a thing or 2 apart in her that we'd like to change. But I think that's what makes this pair so fun. That's what makes them both so good. They are high level cattle. I don't care where you go. We've got an awesome set of seconds and reserves over there backing them up as well that we talked about in each one of their respective divisions. So I've been thoroughly impressed with the quality that we brought out here. Top end was very, very good. One more time, let's congratulate these young people. I'm going to select your champion and reserve Supreme Overall.
Supreme Champion Overall Heifer, Alyssa Williams from Lynn Ritzville FFA.
Well, before I pick our reserve out here, I think the one that comes in and backs up our champion, we need to mention that one because, boy, she's got a lot of good to her as well. I thought she really mirrored our one that ended up winning that division. Her rib and her body type, absolutely phenomenal. Her look and design from the side at the standstill, very, very attractive. Rear feet weren't quite as good, and we studied her in her top line, and she gets just a little pinched in her loin and doesn't keep that together quite as good whenever we got her set in motion. But standing still right there, I certainly think you can tell a lot about the kind of quality and the kind of dimension and the kind of body that she's got. That's another one that's very, very good. So, again, after our champion out here, again, I don't think it's an easy decision for reserve because we still bring one into contention for reserve that's still very, very high quality, and you've done a great job with her. So I'm going to set this down, give them one more look, and we'll pick your reserve overall.
Reserve Supreme Overall Champion Heifer, Kyle Taylor from Northwest Rangers. Third overall Supreme Breeding Heifer, Luke Wade from Lynn Ritzville FFA. Fourth is Kane Geddes from Footloose 4-H. We will now picture all four of these animals, and following the pictures, we will start the FFA